they were using pressureless balls. So tennis balls without any pressure in them, which, as anyone knows, is a flat tennis ball. Obviously, at that altitude, it maybe makes sense because they're going to bounce more at that sort of height. So therefore, if you take the pressure out, then they'll bounce less. Maybe you counteracted it, but that's still going to be some weird tennis. That's not tennis that you're going to be used to. The joy of a home and away fixture, you'll have that one weird fixture where, as a team or as individual players, you're thinking, I hate tennis. This isn't my game. This is not the way I know tennis should be. You may even be like us. You may be a coach and be like, oh, if I taught my, students to play like this, then what would be the point of me? But then you have that home fixture. You go back to your courts where basically the style has to match your style of tennis because that's where you've learned to play tennis. And suddenly you're like, oh, great.
Yeah, but are we ever going to get to that? That's the thing. Like, everyone's got their own interests, right? And yeah, like if you absorb the Davis Cup into the ATP and WTA system, like, what's going to happen to? Yeah, like the ITF almost becomes, like you said, like almost demoted down the pecking order. Welcome back to the Getting a Grip podcast. It is time for some Davis Cup chat. So hopefully this is not going to be really boring because, to be honest, the Davis Cup is not something I've followed massively. There are enough tournaments going on to keep me well occupied. Let's just say that.
I think really we just wanted a break after the Australian Open, didn't we?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about Djokovic for a bit.
Yeah,
and his torn hamstring.
3 millimeters, and
Yeah, sorry guys for for doubting him. A grade 3 tear, Jesus.
No, I'd like to say sorry to Djokovic's hamstring actually, because that thing proved us wrong, didn't it?
Yeah, I'm sure it could probably do with a little bit of loving at the moment.
Oh yeah.
Jeez. Anyway, yeah, we're going to talk about a bit of Davis Cup. So obviously we've got the normal kind of question format, and we'll see if we can kind of like link it into everyday struggles of tennis club players in doubles.
Competitive. Tennis,
competitive, yeah, really competitive.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, you've seen how some people react.
I know, it's like life and death to some people, but yeah, I don't know.
It makes us wonder if Tsitsipas is really that bad a guy. It's a joke there.
Yeah, and at least like they can play on normal tennis surfaces. Some of us have to play on some, let's just say, some interesting courts in interesting locations with some interesting conditions, but we can get into that later on. All right, let's kick it off with number one. Nice, easy question to start with. If you get this question wrong, automatically I'm giving you 0 for the whole quiz. So,
oh, thanks.
So,
if I get this question wrong, the podcast ends. You'll just hear a flatline beep, and that's it.
What, like
there won't be any more. There won't be any more getting
hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be it for the rest of the video. All right. So simply, question one: who won? Oh my God, I've written the question wrong as well. Who won the 2022 Davis Cup? I actually put 2023. I don't know why I've done that. Was it Australia, Canada, USA, or Croatia?
You're a man after my heart here. It was, of course, Canada. Yeah, it was Canada. And I will say that because even though it's not actually ranked the top team in the ITF rankings, that is Croatia. But yeah, it's Canada. Canada won.
I didn't even know that Croatia was a top ranked team. Jeez.
Yeah, I know. I was shocked as well. I was shocked as well to read that.
You know, that's another thing with like these Davis Cup matches, right? It's like half the time they've got like a whole mix of players that they haven't got their best players available or whatever, like because the schedule's so crazy. Often players are kind of taking a break, right? When the Davis Cup is on, just because like when else are you going to get a break?
Almost never played.
Yeah. So like teams you think that would be the best teams or have the best players, often those players aren't even playing. But yes, Canada was right. Who was playing for Canada in that match? I don't actually know all the players. But...
I know Alger Aliassime was, Shapovalov, Vasek Pospisil, because I think he played in the doubles, and then I'm not sure who. There was one other.
I think he might have played with one of those guys in the doubles.
Maybe.
Maybe he played with Shaq. And what was the scoreline? Do you know?
Oh no, I can't remember the scoreline. I
I mean,
think
there's not many options.
wasn't it 3-1 and then there was a dead rubber at the end?
Nope.
No,
It
3-0
was
then.
2-0. Yeah,
Oh,
2 love. 2
2-0.
love, sorry.
2-0.
Yeah,
Oh
2
yeah,
love.
because the format was different under that PK stuff, wasn't it? Yeah,
That PK stuff. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, is it? Wait, hold on. Is the format not? Is it still not best of 3 matches? Have they changed that? I feel like it
I
still
thought they
is.
changed the format slightly, or maybe no, maybe it was the scoring that they changed. But it's sort of gone back to how it was now, given.
Mm. And we will talk
Well,
about that a little bit later.
oh, have I just given an answer to another question?
No, luckily you haven't. But yeah, and how many times have Canada won it before? Do you know? This is not like an actual question, but
Oh God, I don't actually know that. It's a tough one because I know some of the teams that have won it the most times, but I don't think Canada have won it very often. I'd say somewhere in the ballpark figure of like 5 or 6.
nope. That was the first time they'd ever won it.
That was the first time.
There you go.
Didn't know.
Yeah,
To be
that
fair, they've
was.
not been a strong tennising nation until probably the last 10, 20 years.
There you go. Yeah, spot on. Yeah, even with that, like I remember when they had like Raonic. Like, where did he go? It seems to have like disappeared. And
He
obviously,
got
like
injured and I think stopped.
Bouchard was good for a little bit, and then don't know what
Yeah.
happened there. That was when we sort of started calling it their like golden era, right? But they've
Yeah,
still got a
yeah.
few more players.
Well, I
So.
mean, what was it? Milos Raonic made it to Wimbledon final against Andy Murray.
You had to
Kini
mention him
Bouchard had a
again.
great run until that slip and fall incident at the US Open. I was still very confused about that. Yeah,
To keep
it's
you up
very
at
odd.
night. Still thinking
No,
about
it's just
that.
I just don't understand like why you'd be an amazing player, slip, and apparently she bumped her head, and then well suddenly you're just not playing yourself anymore. Like I don't know, it felt a bit odd.
Sounds a bit
Anyway,
suspicious to me.
another thing for another conversation. I probably don't know all the details or something. So
Yeah, we'll get sledged for that again, like the Djokovic thing. Anyway, yeah, 1-1. Nice easy start. Canada won the Davis Cup last year. Okay, and you've already alluded to the second question, which is who has won the Davis Cup the most times in its history? So your options are USA, Australia, France, or Spain.
I believe it's the United States
Of
of America, of Australasia. What are you talking about?
That is correct. Yes. Do you know how many times they've won it in the history?
Oh, good question. I know it's really high. I think I did read this.
What's high though? What do you class as high?
Oh, it's like in the 30s somewhere. I know this. I think it was 32 from what I read. But
Oh,
I
get
could be
out of
wrong.
here! He's done research again. He's been
Have I actually?
reading
I've got that
up.
right. Nice.
It is exactly 32. Yeah, since the
I mean, it's my
competition
job to
started.
research.
Yeah, but that's boring if you get them all right. There's got to be an element of confusion there. You know,
Fine,
everyday
I'll
people
pretend to
don't
be
know these,
confused on the next question then.
and then proceed to get it right again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the competition,
how I roll.
interestingly, when I was looking this up, I found that the competition started in 1900. Or are you going to correct me on that as
Oh.
well?
No,
You're like, no.
I don't know, so I'm sure that's
It
right.
started in the fall of 1893. Yeah, no, so it's been going for quite a while actually. In terms of tennis, like that's so like when did a lot of the Grand Slams wouldn't have started until the 1900s as well, right? Like maybe mid 1900s, early 1900s. Trying to think of like back.
Oh,
when
again, we're
Fred
talking
Perry and all that
open
were playing.
era, but they were
No, like
they were
before
major
Open Era.
competitions. Well, yeah, before open era, they were major competitions for a very long time, even if they weren't classed as maybe a Grand Slam.
Yeah.
Pretty sure Wimbledon predates the Davis Cup.
Oh no, yeah, you're right. It would have been like the 1870s or something. I think I remember we talked about it, but it's all pretty
midway
close,
through that
right?
century.
So
Yeah.
yeah, the Davis Cup is pretty like intertwined in the history of tennis, really. Despite maybe
Yeah.
like a lack of interest in it in recent years, or like being pushed down the pecking order with all the different tournaments and stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the argument there is to make it more relevant on a tour by offering points, or more points for match wins and outcome, like they've done with the United Cup. We saw some great engagement both from the players, the media, as a result of you offer 500 points to the winning team's players. So yeah, I think that's your answer really. But
yeah, the thing is, well, we're going to get onto this in one of the next questions, is like the whole ITF, ATP, WTA, Grand Slam, all the kind of different, I don't know, stakeholders in tennis, shall we say. There's a lot of like competing interests. Anyway, yes, that is correct. 2 from 2. Easy, as I said it would be. So the next one this is sort of something that you probably requested actually. This relates to GB's recent Davis Cup tie. So what I want to know is, what altitude did Team GB play Colombia at in their recent Davis Cup tie? So nearest 100 meters. So it's all in the 2000s. So I thought I'd try and make it a little bit tricky.
2000. Yeah, I know roughly.
Yeah, 2100, 2300, 2600, or 2900. You know
I think it's 2600. I think that's the closest. But to the closest 100, to the closest. Sorry, say the answers again. Was one 200, 400, 600? What?
2100, 2300, 2600, 2900.
I think it's 2600 because part of my brain thinks it's 2496, but that might be wrong. That's my brain thinks it's that. My brain thinks it's that. I don't know that I know that, but that's what my brain is saying the answer is. Yeah, but so I'm going to say 2600 because obviously that's the closest. Yeah.
Oh, I should have snuck in a 2500 there. 2600 meters is correct. So the exact measurement was 2566 meters.
Okay.
So had I put 2500 in there, you would have got that wrong, right?
Yeah, you'd probably ruined me with that. I don't know why my brain went, that's the answer. But that wasn't an option. That's the answer. Yeah. No.
That's so in terms of like the highest you can play at, I think we've probably mentioned this on a previous quiz. So that's pretty close to the highest you can play any match at. Like I'm pretty sure before we said I think they played it in Bogota, on the outskirts of Bogota, and that's where they used to have there used to be a full-on ATP Tour event there. I think it might be a challenger now, but that must be like a pretty similar altitude. And like that's like you're not going to.
I think that was 2,800 or something.
2,800, you think?
I think something around that. Yeah. Again, it could be completely wrong. My brain could just be like numbers. So.
And what kind of balls were they using?
I love this story because it's so weird. They were using pressureless balls. So tennis balls without any pressure in them, which, as anyone knows, is a flat tennis ball. Obviously, at that altitude, it maybe makes sense because they're going to bounce more at that sort of height. So therefore, if you take the pressure out, then they'll bounce less. Maybe you counteracted it, but that's still going to be some weird tennis. That's not tennis that you're going to be used to because it's not going to feel the same coming off the racket.
Well, at least I don't have to pay as much for the balls. Just buy some used ones from down the road.
Yeah.
It's a bit like...
Also, who do you buy them from? I'd like pressureless tennis balls, please. It's like, well, what are you going to do? Like,
what's wrong with you?
Buy normal ones.
Dog. Yeah, geez. Anyway. That's like probably like those tennis balls we use in like the doubles fixtures after like they've been playing with them for like 2 hours and they're like turned into like just balls of fluff and there's just no bounce at all with them. Those fixtures do include some interesting ones. And that's it, right? This is part of why the Davis Cup's so interesting to me, is because you get these home and away ties, which are all very interesting because, it's either a really weird location, like, 2,500 something, 66 feet, or no, meters meters up in altitude. You're playing with pressureless tennis balls to counteract it on a clay court, mine, so the balls aren't, going to bounce quite the same anyway. Like, who's played a weirder court than that? Well, we could argue that we have, because we played league fixture tennis
in England, and we played on what I can only describe as someone's front room carpet that they've just had redone, because it was that sort of like absorbent of any power, and just sort of everything dies. And then obviously, all the guys that play there, they like to play chippy, chargy tennis. So you're counteracting people who they understand their courts very well and they play them very well, but these aren't people you should lose to. So, there's a mental aspect to that as well, because you're frustrated at losing at basically what is a different game at that point, which can be hard to reconcile.
I felt like I didn't know. I almost forgot how to play tennis. It's like, I might just quit now. Like, have I forgotten how to play tennis? Like, that's how it makes you feel when you play on these surfaces that are like so different. Like the ball.
It messes your head up because you're also like, should I play harder? Should I focus in more? Should I be more active, or should I not? Maybe the answer is to care less. Genuinely, sometimes your head goes through that process because you don't know what to do. So you go through everything. Well, what can I do? Well, I can do nothing. Which, funnily enough, actually worked for one of those matches.
Yeah, just get like bounce the serve in with a little bit of slice. Cut the ball. Just put no pace on the ball whatsoever. And see what happens, because they want you to try and hit the ball like a bit harder and play with less margin, I guess, and they just block the ball back and just get in your head basically. Oh god, yeah, I don't miss that, I have to say. I mean, the courts here, there are some like synthetic ones, but at least the ball sort of bounces somewhat normally. Doesn't like skid ankle height and you're just trying to chop it from your feet. Yeah, god, hated that.
But again, that's part of the joy of a home and away fixture. You'll have that one weird fixture where, as a team or as individual players, you're thinking, I hate tennis. This isn't my game. This is not the way I know tennis should be. You may even be like us. You may be a coach and be like, oh, if I taught my students to play like this, then what would be the point of me? But then you have that home fixture. You go back to your courts where basically the style has to match your style of tennis because that's where you've learned to play tennis. And suddenly you're like, oh, great. And then you very easily win against these players who can't handle your surface because they're used to their own. So, I think that was always quite a nice aspect, because you'll also get those tight matches where someone will know how to adapt and will know how to handle those scenarios. And I thought GB did quite well against Colombia with this as well in the Davis Cup, where they could have thrown their toys out of the pram, but they kept some slightly more level heads. Arguably Cameron Norrie was the front man of that, to get them the win through tough conditions against a team they should beat. But
the guys they played were like, I think ranked 250 or like 500 or something in the world. But
on a pressureless ball clay court that's high up in the mountains, you're going to think, well, they got a chance now, haven't they?
Yeah, that's how it works, isn't it? It's almost like the equivalent of like a cold, wet, rainy night in Stoke or something on a Tuesday. If you can do it in the Colombian mountains, you can do it anywhere. That is the test.
Well, this is exactly it, and this is why the professionals get to be paid to play tennis, because they know how to adapt all these courts. And there are probably people at a club level who hit a ball the same. I'd say a lot of us probably hit the pace of the ball not too dissimilarly to rallies that they play at the pro level. But can you do it on every surface? Can you do it, every other day, every day, even for a week? Can you deal with different tactics? Can you employ different tactics? There's so much to the game.
Yeah, and all the pressure that goes with it. No pressure in the balls, but pressure in the atmosphere.
I see what you did there.
Thank you. All right. Question number 4. Now we're going to get into the nitty gritty. So, the ITF recently announced that they were splitting off from Gerard Piquet's Cosmos Tennis, or the partnership that they had. I think that was at the end of last year's tournament or whatever. Obviously, they've gone back to kind of running it themselves now. I wanted to know, seeing as money sort of makes the world go round, how much money had been pledged over 25 years by Cosmos Tennis to invest in tennis, I guess. I don't know what the
Just
specifics were.
before, just before you give me the options,
Yeah.
of which I'm sure I already know the answer. Yeah, he's arrogant as
Wow.
well, guys. But you went really Australian there.
Did I?
Yeah, the way you said no. Anyway, just
Oh
if
God.
anyone was listening and
Oh
thought,
God,
"Oh,
it's
what happened to
happening.
Ben?"
It's happening. I either slip into like a Devonian accent or some rogue Aussie accent. I'm all
Nah,
confused. Anyway, so well, there's no point me reading these answers out now, is there? Seeing as you know what it is. But
2.5 billion.
oh well, let's see what the options are. So your options are $500 million, $1 billion, 2 billion, or 3 billion. Not so confident now, are you?
All I'm trying to
Properly
think
thrown him
now.
off.
All I'm trying to think now is, are you quoting me this in a different currency?
Oh, it could be. Oh no.
Because 2.5 billion pounds is $3 billion,
Is it?
roughly.
Shall we check the exchange rate? Oh no. I'm gonna have to try and find it now. Oh dear. Was it in pounds?
So
Maybe I read
for
it.
for anyone listening currently,
I'm on my computer trying to figure it out.
has gotten to the point where he's even getting the questions wrong. Not the answers, he's getting the questions wrong.
Okay, I am content with the options I've given, so I'm just going to leave it at that.
In pounds.
No, my answers are in dollars.
Your answer is in dollars. All right,
Yeah,
fine.
of course they are. Not Aussie dollars,
right.
though.
Yeah, US dollars. All right, $3 billion then.
Okay, now I'm going to check
That was
whether
what
that's
was
correct.
pledged over a 25-year deal, and they ended it after 5 years.
You are correct. It is actually exactly 2.5 billion.
If you had told me that I was wrong, I'd boys out the pram.
Good. So, in short, a lot of money was pledged. And the ITF said, bugger off. We don't need you in tennis. Get out of here. Yeah. So, they did try and change the format, didn't they, as well? Although I don't know if they've changed it back or not. But
Well, the format they changed was that it was a best of 3 set matches rather than best of 5, because it used to be best of 5. I remember some of the days that, Andy and Jamie were pairing up in doubles in Davis Cup ties. One of the best things I ever saw, to be quite honest. Watching someone getting that fired up for their country. Yeah, and I remember those being quite long matches. So
you are right, yeah.
I think they've kept it the same this year.
No, they haven't. They have changed it back to best of 5.
They have changed it back.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So GB won their match against Colombia 3-1. So yeah. I'm not sure how I feel about that, to be honest. There's already enough lemon matches going on. Like, I know it probably it could make it a bit more interesting. There's a bit more of a storyline there. There's a chance to come back and all that sort of stuff. A bit like when we talk about best of 3 sets versus best of 5 sets, but we're talking about matches here. I just feel like, the player, like, surely this is just too many matches with the amount of tournaments that are going on. You don't need to then be playing best of 5 matches. Like, I know they're not playing every match either. I suppose that's probably mitigating circumstances. Like, you probably mainly play, if you're a singles player, you'll probably mainly just play in the singles. But even in this, like, Evans was playing in a doubles match as well. So
I think he was quite fervent. He wanted to as well.
What do you feel about it? Do you feel like that? What do you feel about best of 3 versus best of 5 match format?
It's an interesting point, and this is where it draws in quite nicely to league fixtures as well, that you can play in sort of a domestic club level. But yeah, okay, busy schedules on a tour, lots of matches, little time to recover. Any time that is there, sort of between big tournaments, like for now, for example, between the Australian Open and the next leg that leads up to the French Open. There's not much time, and so players aren't going to want to slog it out or risk injury and all that sort of stuff. This is why Federer never played, especially towards the end of his career, because that time off was really precious to him. But at the same time, as a fan, as a spectator, we all love a 5 set match, don't we? We only see it in a Grand Slam. See it 4 times a year. Okay, fair enough. That should be enough. Um, but for your country, you want the big gripping ties. You want the things that, and this is again where we argue: is the Davis Cup for tennis fans, or should the Davis Cup be to encourage fans to watch tennis? My argument would be with you for the reason of, okay, if we have shorter matches, it's better for the players. It's also better for, and not every player agrees with this. Some of the players like the 5 set ties. But it's also better for, I would say, the people watching it, because it's not such a big slog to watch it. You watch a World Cup match. Let's put this into context, like a football cup match. An hour and a half, maybe a bit longer, depending on what happens. Maybe 2 hours. But a lot of people are like, "Oh, gone to penalties again. It's so long." And again, with a tennis cup tie, you don't want Murray versus Kokkinakis again happening in a Davis Cup 5 times. You don't want it going to 5 hours and something. It's a little bit too much. You're not going to watch it all. Can't schedule it all either. So yeah, that's what I'd argue. And again, it comes down to, what's it, league club fixtures at a domestic level for club players. Like, you don't want a format that leads you to going home at like 10, 11 o'clock at night because you've had a long day at work. Tennis is something you do for pleasure, not professionally. You want to be competitive because you still enjoy that angle of tennis. You get on court at 6:30. You've not had a proper dinner, and then you've got to stay there until like what, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. It's too long. So you've got to find a way that you can manage what people want out of out of these sorts of fixtures and stuff like that. And I think what you have to do with sort of like the league level is either have a shorter format. And the question is, how do you shorten that? You're playing a best of 3 sets tie. Can you make that shorter? Is it really tennis if you do? Do you play 2 matches? Do you just play the one? Like, yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah, I remember even our like league matches. Well, it was always the matches I was involved in, conveniently, that would go on till like blimmin' 9:30, 10 o'clock at night.
We like a fight,
ruined.
Don't
we? Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes it's like you almost need a bit of a challenge to get going.
Yeah.
Or you just lower your standard to whoever you're playing. It's probably more what it was than anything else.
Yeah, well, then you have a challenge that you have to fight back for, and then you start to play better.
And then it's like, well, I'm not losing, so if this goes on till like 10 o'clock, then it's going to go on till 10 o'clock.
Exactly. And again, like, you're not playing again the next day or in 2 days' time necessarily. You're playing this once a week.
Oh, I wouldn't be anywhere. I'd be wrecked.
Yeah. No, exactly. Do you think how wrecked you are? How wrecked do you think someone would be in a Davis Cup tie that's literally got to come back tomorrow and maybe do it again? So, and yes, they're fitter. And yes, they train for this, but it's still going to have that toll on the body. Maybe not as impactful, but they're going to feel it a little bit. So yeah, it's interesting. I never really know what the answer is with these like doubles club fixtures, especially that we play in England. I don't know if there are any other formats worldwide that anyone knows of.
But yeah, I think like shortening the sets is not great. Like if you try to do like, I don't know, fast 4 or something, it's just
it's just not the same.
Yeah.
Well, and people who love tennis, which are the people that play these fixtures, don't like that. Now, a lot of these people play tennis for years as well. Like, try convincing them that that's the right way forwards. Like, it's just not going to happen. Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know the context, actually, a lot of these club league fixtures where you play different clubs in your sort of area, county, region, or whatever, you play 2 doubles matches, basically. So it's 2 doubles pairs, and you play 2 doubles matches. So everyone plays everyone in these 4 member teams. But yeah, as you say, it can go on for a while.
Yeah, I think, you can't really start it earlier either, can you? Like, we started at like 6:30, and most people do
people have work, don't they?
Yeah. Unless you do it at the weekends, and then everyone's like, nah, got other stuff going on. Yeah, it's worse if you play it.
Families and
if you play it like actually during the week, as opposed to like a Friday evening or something, like, and then you got to go to work the next day, and you're just like wrecked if you've had a long match.
Well, some do that. Some do that, and yeah.
It's never going to be
Again, it's a
perfect, is
tough
it?
answer.
Yeah.
No, I think for me the best way forward in that scenario is rather than the two teams playing both teams, as in both like the two doubles pairs that you take, you just play 1v1 and 2v2 or something like that. I think that's probably the best. So as in one match rather than two matches, because that would shorten it considerably, literally half the time. And I think everyone would go away a little bit happier. Because again, that's what home and away fixtures are for, are they not? To get that extra element in where you're playing them again, different scenario, different circumstance, maybe a different team. It doesn't need to be the same team every time as well. You might have a different four. You might have a couple of people that are different, and that's where you can add in competitive edges or whatever. So yeah, I think that would be the answer for me.
There we go. Let us know if there's any Brits there, kind of who've got ideas on how to better format these matches and stuff. But there's no perfect scenario, is there? So you kind of try and shorten the time, but then you don't want to shorten it too much because you still want to get something out of it, right? So there still needs to be like that element of battle there. So anyway, okay, that leads us on to the last question, which is probably going to be quite easy. And the question is, what is the number of matches it takes to win the Davis Cup in total? So all the way through from group stage to winning it.
At the finals, I assume, not in qualifier.
Yeah, not including qualifying. Okay. Yeah, all the way to the final with back to this kind of format now that we're in, not the format that we had the last few years. You're gonna have to maths this one.
Yeah, I am.
If you know exactly how many rounds there are, then you'll be able to work it out pretty easy. I hope I haven't got it wrong, actually. So your options are, I haven't given you options: 10, 15, 18, or 20.
Okay, so there's a quarters, a semis, and a final. So there are 8 teams in total. So it's 3 rounds.
Oh wait, is there home and away in the group stages in the round robin, or is it just you play someone once and it's either you're away or you're home? It doesn't. It's just.
I think it used to be home and away ties, whereas I think it's gone. No, and then PK0 brought it to just the one fixture, and then I think it's going back. I don't know if it's gone back yet though.
Okay, well that's confused me. Let's go with last year's format then, so at least I know what's going on then.
So last year's format is without there being home and away ties.
Yeah, and obviously the first to however many matches is different. So the options are different then. So 8, 10, 12, or 15.
And is this how many matches you need to win?
Yeah.
So minimum. Not the maximum number of matches?
Minimum.
So the minimum required. Okay. Indeed. So 2 singles and a doubles. 3 rounds. Should be easier.
I hope I've worked it out right.
8, 10, 12, and 15, did you say?
Yeah.
I don't think you've... I mean...
Have I done it wrong?
My answer is not there.
But there's not home and away, right?
Theoretically, the minimum needed is 6. 3 rounds, and you only need to win 2 of your 3 matches in order to go through.
Yeah, this is to win the whole thing.
Yeah, but there are 3 rounds. There is quarters, semis, and a final.
There's a group stage as well.
Oh, we're including a group stage. Sorry.
Yeah, not qualifying, just the actual group stage.
Not qualifying.
But then from then on, yeah.
Right. Okay.
Sorry to anyone following along.
Yeah, this is rough from us to say the least. Okay. And a group stage. I'm gonna say 12 then, because I imagine the groups would be groups of 4, and I think they're groups of 4. and so therefore you have to win 6 there and then 6 throughout the quarters, semis, and the finals. That's my logic. I could be wrong.
Final answer?
Yeah, I can't be bothered to put people through it anymore.
Oh, yeah, it's correct.
Yeah.
Well done. So you got to play 3 other teams, essentially, because you're in a group of 4. So in each of those matches, you got to win. This is last year's format. You got to win 2 matches in each, call it round or fixture. Confusing, it's like a match within a match, in a way. So that's 2 in each one. And there's 3 of those in the group stage, so that gives you 6, and then you got to go quarters, semis, final, which is another 6. So all in all, it's 12. With this new format, that's going to go up significantly, especially if you have to play home and away. So already, if it's not home and away, it would go up to like 18. And then if you got to do home and away in the group stage, then you're adding on another, what's that, 9 maybe? Yeah, probably would be. So that'd be like close to like 27 matches or something. So it just shows you the volume of tennis that they were still trying to cram in, like amongst all the other tournaments. Obviously, we talked about the schedule. The other thing, actually, that I wanted to talk about that we were supposed to touch on in the previous question was the whole, like, the ITF have got their Davis Cup thing, and then you've obviously got the ATP and WTA have got their kind of tours and events, and then you've got the Grand Slams, which are, you know, a little bit more closely aligned with the ATP, I suppose, because obviously you still get ranking points towards that.
Yeah.
Is there space for like someone to come in with new investment? You know, like PK came in with his investment, trying to like revamp the Davis Cup. What happens if there's like, you know, is there a possibility for like a breakaway tour almost with new investment coming into it? I don't know what you think about that. Get out.
Yeah.
I like it as it is. Is there even space for the ITF now, like with the Davis Cup?
So here's my argument. I personally believe the Davis Cup is a good thing. I believe what we've managed to do quite well is because obviously there's a there's a women's version as well for is it the Fed Cup? It's the Fed Cup, isn't it? Yeah, I thought it was the Fed Cup because again, sponsors change the names of these things all the time.
Or maybe it's the Billie Jean King Cup. I don't know.
Oh, don't mess with me like that. Again, things.
I think it is Billie Jean King Cup.
Billie Jean King Cup. Okay. Maybe it used to be called the Fed Cup, or maybe there's a separate Fed. Anyway,
there we go. It's confusing, isn't it?
The point being, again, there's a lot of competitions already. The schedule has no room, not really any room for anything else. What you would risk is splitting how players basically attracted across the tour, 2 different things, and you know the broadcasting rights. Like, who's got the time to watch that much tennis if it's on at the same time as other major things as well? I personally think this come across, you know, a bit favoritist, but I think the ATP and the WTA have got a nice thing going. Then you've got the Davis Cup, United Cup; those are nice as well. I think the Davis Cup needs to be brought into the ATP and WTA system to give it true relevance. And you know, however that works. And to be quite honest, the ITF isn't really something that can cater for that level of players anymore. The ITF caters for a different tier of the tennis system, and I think that's where we need to look at it. Is it's not about competing on those same levels, the top level of the tour, as it were, and all the Grand Slams and all of that sort of stuff. But you've got to look at it at catering for different levels. So obviously you've got, you've got the ATP Tour, the WTA Tour, for example, for the best, and then below that you've got the Challenger Tour, which is, you know, tournaments that range up to about 250 points, but no more than that. You know, basically the level below that Pro Tour. And then below that, you've got the Futures, which is ITF run as well, which are all sort of cups which, you know, the best you can hope to win out of a tournament like that is maybe 25, 50K. But, you know, that's where the ITF exists. It exists in that tiered system, not competing against it. So hopefully, again, we just need to see more of a... This is coming out very socialist in the tennis world. It needs to be all combined, and it needs to find agreement as to how it slots in, not just for the views of fans, but for the views of players as well.
Yeah, but are we ever going to get to that? That's the thing. Like, everyone's got their own interests, right? And yeah, like if you absorb the Davis Cup into the ATP and WTA system, like, what's going to happen to? Yeah, like the ITF almost becomes, like you said, like almost demoted down the pecking order. They probably feel like the Davis Cup gives them some kind of not parity, but like that's can be still a top level of tennis. But again, if there's no ranking points available towards the ATP and WTA tours, then it loses a little bit of significance or relevance. Apart from the fact you're representing your country and all that sort of stuff, which is great. But ranking points are like the bread and butter, aren't they, of the tour? Really, like that's where a lot of the money is, and ultimately everything gears towards the Grand Slams, right? In the pecking order, the Grand Slams are the main thing. And if that's, yeah, go on.
Well, I was going to say, tennis is a very savage game. And at that level, if you don't have the ranking points, you're not going to draw very well against people who you can potentially beat. What you're going to be drawn against is potentially someone who's looking to win that tournament if you're lower down. And so therefore, you've got to deal with your toughest possible match straight away. And that's what's savage about it. I mean, Breakpoint covered this really well in the first match. It's savage. If you're not winning, you're not making any money. So that's not sustainable for someone. So, yeah.
Yeah, everything is geared towards the Grand Slams. And ultimately, they're kind of interlinked with the ATP and WTA tour and the rankings. So if you're not in line with that, then the way the tennis world is, you lose kind of relevance and significance. Yeah, let us know what you think about like where we stand with the Davis Cup and I don't know, investment into tennis in general. Should it be absorbed into the main tours? Are there any other ideas that people have got? Let us know in the comments and if you have obviously enjoyed this podcast, give us a follow on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and then on YouTube, like it, share it around, and subscribe. And we will see you in the next one. Again, I don't know what we're doing in the next one, but are there any tournaments going on apart from the Davis Cup?
Don't worry. We've got some good stuff.
We'll line something up. See you in the next one.